Welcome to This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. I'm Kent Justice, your host for our show, and our podcast really focuses on economic development in the River City and throughout our region. So today we are looking at the development and some construction, some recent projects. So joining me for our conversation, Andy Allen from Corner Lot Development Group and Alex Sifakis from JWB Real Estate Capital. So I'd like each of you maybe just to get us started, give us an overview of your background and then your specific business. Andy, why don't we start with you?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kent, and Alex as well. I'm Andy Allen. I grew up here, 7th grade, played golf at JU and never left. Got into the real estate world in 2005 through mortgage and title, and then started Corner Lot in 2009. Fast forward now 15 years, we're a multifaceted development company with 30 employees right here in Riverside. Really focused on downtown right now and the growth, and happy to have great partners with JWB.
The specific nature of the focus of what you're doing in development.
Absolutely. So our critical mass is multifamily, ground up development. We also do single family subdivisions. We just jumped into hospitality with opening the Hilton Home to Suites over here in Riverside. But our primary focus is ground up multifamily, and really now concentrated in and around downtown.
Well, Andy, I appreciate being here. Our first chance to look each other eyeball to eyeball and get to know each other. I appreciate the time. Alex, you and I got to know each other a few years ago, but this is the first time we've done an interview here.
Very exciting.
So yeah,
thanks for having me.
It is for me, and I guess give a little bit of your background and then your company as well.
Yeah, originally from Massachusetts. I went to Orlando for high school, went to University of Florida, go Gators, and graduated.
Wait a second, Florida State?
JU.
That's right.
Business
JU.
Partners,
Okay.
Florida State,
right.
though,
There
so
we
he'll
go.
say something about
all
it.
right. Thought there might be some conflict right there.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
And after graduating, didn't want to get a real job, and so went to a seminar on learn how to fix up and flip houses, and it worked. Literally convinced my high school and college buddy to quit his job. He had moved up to Jacksonville from Gainesville, and I slept on his couch until he quit his job, and we started flipping houses together in 2006. The exact wrong time to start a real estate investment company.
It's all about timing.
Yeah, it'd be tough timing. You didn't know in 6 necessarily.
No.
You could see in 2008 and 9.
No, but we survived the downturn and then started really scaling our single family development business, which is our core business today. We buy infill lots in neighborhoods around Jacksonville, West Side, South Side, North Side, Arlington, build new construction houses, and about half of those we sell to homeowners who are going to live in them. At affordable entry-level price points, below 300 grand primarily. And then we also build investment houses. We rent those out and we sell them to investors to want to keep them and own them as rental properties. And we continue to manage them for those investors afterwards. So because we do a lot of management, we have a very large property management company. We manage about 6,000 single-family homes here in Jacksonville. And then we also do single-family development. We're developing about 3,000 single-family and townhome lots right now, all across Jacksonville. And then we have some significant investments in downtown through some stuff we've done with JWB, and then through a fund that we created with DLP Capital called Gateway Jax, which is now owns over 20 city blocks in downtown Jacksonville. Should be breaking ground on the first phase of development in the North Core this year of about $500 million first phase of development in downtown.
And that's a project that I think when we first started this back in October, there's some news coming out about that project and a lot of excitement about it. Let me tell you why I initially reached out here. Just beginning of March, I saw that Corner Lot and JWB and Breeze Homes welcoming first homeowners to Johnson Commons at La Villa Townhomes, downtown Jacksonville. So Andy, help me understand this project, what it means, and then I want to hear maybe why you feel it's important and how it connects with that mission of revitalizing downtown.
Absolutely, and we'll tag team this. It really started, I think it was 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. We were both looking at this project when it came out for RFP through DIA.
It's 2019 originally, I'm pretty sure.
It's crazy.
About that.
And we ended up joining forces. And La Villa is a wonderful neighborhood, a lot of history, a lot of transit-oriented development with what JRTC and the JTA is doing over there. We take a look at this. We were thinking about doing multifamily in the beginning, and we pivoted over to doing townhouses. There hasn't been fee simple home ownership sales in downtown Jacksonville for just under 30 years. It's kind of crazy to think. And so Alex and I, we looked at this and Figured the fact that bring some density into the La Villa area with home ownership. It's just under 100 townhouses. And there's also, a second phase as a part of our agreement with the city. And it was in partnership and coordination with the James Weldon Johnson and Lift Every Voice and Sing Park right there. So, yeah, I think that as far as what the stats are doing right now, it exceeded all expectations. It took a little bit to get this thing kicked off due to a little event that happened in 2020.
Right.
But I think that this is going to be one of many, and Alex can talk a little bit about how it's going.
And Alex, that's my recollection. You and I got to know each other a little bit in 2019, and I remember you were so bullish on what could happen downtown, what some of these projects could mean, and then we ran into that 2020 buzzsaw for a few years. Is this finally seeing some of that vision play out and come to life?
It really is, and these things, development, and especially urban revitalization development, always takes longer than you want or that you expect. But yeah, between Johnson Commons and the Four Seasons now going vertical, that office building down there, the work that we're finishing along Laurel Street Corridor with the Greenleaf Building and Tweetching Church Street and the Federal Reserve Building, the project the Gateway has going on, the stuff that Cornelot is doing with their new multifamily. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of momentum. I feel like in downtown for the past 30 years, we've only been involved in downtown for 5 or 6 years, but for the past 30 years, we've had so many stakeholders that have been pushing this boulder up this hill. And it is...
Sometimes it rolls back on top of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it seems like.
But it has just started rolling downhill, and there's so many projects that are happening but haven't really come out of the ground or delivered yet. So there's still a little bit of skepticism from the public about downtown, but I think the next 3 years, the deliveries, the projects, the exciting things that are going to come out of the ground is going to change a lot of people's minds.
Andy, I'm curious, as you've gotten to know Alex, somebody who's from Jacksonville. You said since 7th grade, right? So you've been here a while. You've seen the efforts to push the boulder up the hill and whatever. What's that conversation like for somebody who's coming from outside the area and say, boy, I see the potential and I want to get involved? Is there some education, or does he have to bring somebody like you and say, no, we can do this even though it hasn't happened over 30 years?
No, it's funny. Look, Alex and we see eye to eye, I would say. And I would say that our business partners, they see eye to eye. So it's always this funny dichotomy there. But we've actually known each other since 2009. So when I got into the real estate world, we ran into each other. We were buying and flipping houses. We were competitors, but it's always been a friendly fire. And really just having Alex come into downtown, and really I think we were kind of doing it simultaneously. He and I are probably two of the biggest cheerleaders for the city of Jacksonville, not just here locally when we're talking to other business leaders, influential people, just the community in general. We're out campaigning for downtown, from a regional level. When we travel to Savannah or Charleston or Nashville or Austin, we're always sitting here trying to get restaurateurs and chefs and other developers here. And I think that the last generation of developers in Jacksonville, there was not nearly as much collaboration as we have together and with Gateway and with other developers here. They always say rising tide lifts all ships, and we really believe that, especially in downtown. And so it's been a wonderful journey thus far, and I would say that over the next 5 years, collaboratively and as a tag team and bringing in and continuing to cheer with the pom-poms, other development here, it's going to be a wonderful thing to see and look back. And I think that the fact it's a testament to him and his team of bringing in a guy like Brian Mull and his team from Water Street over in Tampa. Part of what Alex said, people in Jacksonville, seeing is believing, and that's it. If they're not seeing it, they're not believing it.
And it makes sense,
right?
Because it's taken a long time for this thing to happen.
Absolutely. But I think that having Gateway and the team that has done development over in Tampa and Water Street, in and around the Tampa Bay Lightning Arena, that's something that people have been to locally, a lot of them. They can see it as a parallelism, as a mirror to what we're doing here. And it helps us tremendously when it comes to capital raising and, once again, bringing in other development and restaurateurs and chefs and whatnot. So yeah, we're more of a open arm versus closed arm collaboration now.
Well, so and just hearing the words there about the rising tide, right? What makes me think of Rise Doro, this development downtown in the Arena District, and tragically, suddenly a fire. Those sorts of things, I mean, no planning for it. It happens. Is there any sense of, boy, that gives us another opportunity? Or is it like, oh, I hate that, even if we're competitors, I hate that somebody else is going through this and it slows the progress we want to see downtown?
Oh, everyone hated that. Everyone working on downtown hated that, because I think there's, like Andy said, there's a lot of people that are working on downtown, developing in downtown right now, and almost everyone is cheering for everyone else, and there's no competition. Like Rise, Doro would have only helped downtown. Yeah, it's 300 units, but those residents and those amenities is really creating that walkable urban fabric that we need to see downtown. Synergy is a good word. So no, everyone was sick over seeing that, and you know, it's kind of like when the boulder falls back on you. Just gotta keep pushing. But yeah, that was just a shame.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a detriment to all of downtown. You know, and so I think another thing, you know, this was, I think, 2018, 2019 with Lot J and all of these other things. I mean, you know, be that as it may, I think that in the long run, you know, things are working out the way that they should be. But anytime that you have something happen, you know, that was just painful. And all of us kind of talked to each other, and a lot of text messaging going around. And so, you know, we're happy that they're getting that thing kicked back up, and it's going to be a wonderful project and part of downtown.
So I want to hear about another project that I understand there's a partnership between JWB and Corner Lot, NoCo Center. Tell me about this and how this partnership is working for you guys here.
Yeah, it's great.
Where is it, by the way?
So the NoCo Center is the old First Baptist Church auditorium, the giant auditorium. It's on State Street in between Laura and Hogan. So it's where the Van Gogh exhibit was, where Monet is now. And it's been going great. You know, that was kind of like Johnson Commons. Andy and I both were interested in it, and we said, instead of competing on it, let's partner on it. And that's really how it kind of started. And Andy was actually the one that found the Paquin Group, which has started these shows, which have been phenomenal. They brought over 200,000 people combined through downtown. So that's been a really great positive to take what was, you know, a vacant building the church had been sitting on for a couple of years, to return it to productive use. And that whole area around NoCo is where Gateway owns a tremendous amount of property, and where, you know, phase 1 and 2 of that development are going to be breaking ground the next year or two. It should be finishing in 2026, 27, 2028.
It's a great collaboration though, right? Not just between us, but in Paquin, but with the church, right? The church was not using this asset, and so, you know, they dispositioned it, and we were looking at it, and Alex was actually looking at tearing it down, so I can't believe he gave me credit for that. But really, Paquin came to town. It kind of fell into place, you know, kind of manifested that, and I think that destination and that immersive exhibit, the first one was Beyond Van Gogh. I mean, it's
wildly popular.
Wildly popular, exactly.
They kept extending. More people want to see it.
That's right. But it shows the starvation for placemaking and destination in and around Northeast Florida. People were coming from Savannah, from Orlando, from Charleston, so it wasn't just locals, it was people, you know, within 2 to 3 hours, and sometimes people were flying in for a game or whatnot and made it a 3-day weekend. And so, yeah, Jacksonville wants it. We delivered that. I think it's a great example of what's to come in and around downtown as far as placemaking and, you know, entertainment.
Andy, I've got a list of some of the other things that are going on here. Is it Artia at South Bank? Corner on Main, Jones on Hogan. What are some of the other projects that you guys?
Yeah, so Artia is actually, when we pulled into the parking lot, it's that multifamily development across the street.
I see it across the street.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a 340 market rate unit. What's really unique about that is that's a transit-oriented development. You'll see that, TOD, in collaboration and partnership with the JTA.
Explain that. That means, hey, we expect that residents there are going to use mass transit?
Yeah, they're going to use alternative modes or methods of transportation. In this situation, you know, walk over to the Skyway and take it to other areas of downtown with the 2.5 mile system that they have in place. We also have, you know, a bus stop there so that people can also jump on the bus if they want to. There's a pedestrian friendly walkway connecting actually our garage under 95 over to the actual JTA Skyway station. And really what we're trying to do is get density in these modes and these nodules of where transportation is available. You know, Jacksonville, right? We started in suburbia, and we left a hole in the middle, which is downtown as far as our development. Typically, downtowns get developed first and then spread out. And so I think it's a blessing and a curse that, you know, our downtown has suffered over the last 30, 40 years. But I think we're also learning from other cities like Tampa and Orlando and Miami on how we can get in front of transit and logistics and transportation. So, you know, it's great that as we go and visit these other cities, of course, we're jealous of a lot of their vibe and placemaking and obviously their development, but we're also, there's always takeaways that we can learn from as we continue to develop our city.
Yeah, I mentioned some other developments there. Happy to have you comment on those. What about what JWB is going? What else would you say is coming soon, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so in downtown, we've got the Greenleaf building where Jacobs Jewelers used to be. So we're doing roughly $9 million renovation on that. We've got some incentives from the Downtown Investment Authority. We're going to bring a restaurant to that first floor space. We're actually going to be occupying that building, so we're moving our offices downtown. Right. And then we've actually leased the rest of the building. So when we move in, the building will be fully occupied. And that's been a 40% vacant building for a while now. We've got right next to City Hall, Sweet Pete's, 218 Church Street in the Federal Reserve Building. So 218 Church Street there's a courtyard in between Sweet Pete's and the Federal Reserve Building that's outdoor seating for the restaurants that will be going in those buildings. So Co-op, which is a frosé and sandwich shop that's out of Charleston. They also have locations in Vegas and Nashville. They're opening up over there, should be open before the end of the year, hopefully before the end of the summer. And then we have another amazing concept that we can't disclose yet, but it's a private club, event venue, and a bunch of different food and beverage options. It's going to be taking the whole Federal Reserve Building. And then behind that, 218 Church Street is 24 residential units that are fully occupied now. And the Porterhouse Mansion, we renovated that. We're saving the basement for a restaurant. And then the Gateway development is actually adjacent to the Porterhouse Mansion. Jones, Andy's project, is actually in between the Porterhouse Mansion and 218 Church Street. So we're really building a district where 3 years ago that was all vacant, blighted property. And in 2 years, there'll be 6, 7 contiguous blocks of new development, probably 1,500 residential units total, 200,000 square feet of retail. It's just going to be a pretty amazing transformation. Right
so even as I'm visiting with you, lots of energy and optimism, and I can see the passion from you. There have got to be barriers, though. There have got to be difficulties. What are some of those things in Jacksonville that people just have to work through in order to achieve that vision that you see for redeveloping or making something brand new come up out of the ground in downtown or wherever?
I think the biggest thing, and the reason that downtown hasn't developed, is because the projects don't pencil without government incentives. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make sense to build a building in downtown right now unless you have incentives. If it did, then developers would have been building in downtown already. And so it's really critical that we have the Downtown Investment Authority, which bridge that gap to give us incentives so that developments can work. So for instance, without incentives, the buildings we building for Gateway, you spend $60 million building a building, and it's worth $45 million after you're done. Mm-hmm. So nobody's going to build a $60 million building if they're losing $15 million day one. The incentives help make those projects work where they can get built, and each of those projects includes ground floor retail, amenities that raises the profile of downtown, makes downtown more desirable, which will raise rents in downtown. So over time, over the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, we should not need anywhere near or potentially any incentives to make projects work. Where right now these incentives are critical as you know to seed the development to get it going. So I think that's the biggest initial issue. But is that the Downtown Investment Authority is amazing to work with, and they've been around since 2012, and you've seen tremendous development. You know, we've more than doubled the amount of residential units in downtown since 2012, and that's due to the focus and the incentives that the DIA has been able to provide.
Okay. Absolutely. And I think to add on to that, you know, the DIA is doing a wonderful job, REV grants, public-private partnerships, development agreements. Access to capital, right? So Jacksonville was not on the map as it has been since really post-pandemic. You know, the pandemic was obviously awful, detrimental to health, to people and families and whatnot. If you take a look at it from a perspective of the city of Jacksonville, you know, we never shut down. And our 4 major employment it's medical, it's military, it's fintech, and it's logistics. So what happened? 2020 hits, we don't shut down. All of a sudden, we start popping up in the third quarter on all of these national market studies as far as unemployment, as far as opportunities, as far as places to live. So what does that do? People start seeing it from the lens of, hey, we should go check this place out. And I would say that in 2020 and 2021, we probably had the most capital, investors, other developers flying in here to see, hey, what the heck is going on? And so, yes, I think that the pandemic kind of put us on the market study map. I think that in connection with how DIA and the city is working and filling that bridge, that gap in the capital stack to make these deals work. And then really, I think that, if you look at historically other cities that have changed, whether it's Tampa or whether it's Charleston, outside money comes into it. It really does. And so we've seen that over the last 2-3 years. And it's great to sit here with our pom-poms and welcome these people into the city that see the potential and help us build our city up to its full optimization. It's pretty rewarding.
There's sometimes some criticism from that, though, right? Hey, it should be all a Jacksonville thing. Well, no, you're saying you want to welcome other investors, other people to get involved. Certainly, I like hearing what you were just saying, Alex, about, hey, this restaurant, they've got a concept here, and they're in other parts of the country, they're going to come to Jacksonville.
Right.
So there's got to be some give and take on that issue, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we need both. I mean, and there's a lot of local Jacksonville investors and that have been putting money into downtown and trying to revitalize it for a long time. But it is very helpful to have the outside capital to come in, and that has happened in the past few years. I mean, when I would go to conferences 6 or 7 years ago, I'd say I was from Jacksonville. 50% of the people said where, and 50% of the people said sorry about the Jaguars. And now everyone knows. On both notes. Now everyone knows where Jacksonville is, and that is a great thing for the city. That being said, right now the capital markets are really tough. So I think the biggest risk right now to downtown's momentum continuing is the debt markets and the equity markets. Right now, debt is really expensive. It's hard to get loans because some of the lenders, banks, and whatnot are skittish. And then even though there are a lot more people looking at Jacksonville, just generally across the board, equity investors are hesitant right now to write checks that you need to get these projects off the ground. So I think that's probably the biggest potential headwind, even though, to Andy's point, we're doing better than the rest of the country as a whole in Jacksonville right now.
Yeah. Well, and you referenced earlier getting into the industry in 2006 and 2008 and 9, all of that going on, and you certainly felt it. Hey, you could have the greatest idea, the greatest product, what have you, and people were going to say, that's terrific, I'm not writing a check.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't afford the risk. So certainly as we've seen inflation and, as you mentioned, debt getting so expensive, so a lot of just hesitation, I think, is what we've seen. Do you anticipate that changing here as we've seen the Federal Reserve say, hey, we're going to hold off, we might even start cutting some interest rates?
Absolutely. I mean, that's probably something we talk about, every month, if not every week. We do think that rates will hopefully come down at the end of the year. I think one of the things, though, that is really continuing to put us on the map. Matter of fact, today was Wall Street Journal. We just got ranked second.
Second fastest growing. It was like job growth.
Job growth, yeah. So it was Salt Lake City, and then it was Jacksonville, then it was Orlando, and I think fourth was even possibly Miami. But being on the podium in a Wall Street Journal showing that, hey, as far as job growth, and a lot of that is leaning towards the fact of just being an affordable area to live with the quality of lifestyle here. And a lot of that is actually in and around fintech and technology. And so obviously, with the UF school coming here and with FIS and other ancillary and auxiliary businesses that pop up in and around those major hubs, it's just something that will continue to allow us to grow. Yeah, right? It's people living, it's people working and playing. We've been really excited about the potential of getting a college or university in downtown Jacksonville for, I don't know, since we've known each other.
Now we're going to have two. JU's got the law school and UF with their postgraduate school. So.
Yeah. So all these things, micro and macro, it helps mitigate the fact that Jacksonville's on the map. It's going to continue to be on the map, and we have a long runway ahead of us, as opposed to some other cities that got crushed by the pandemic because it was tourism or just as an example. So I think the diversity that we have here, not just from employment, but just from the people, it's a really exciting time, and it feels very rewarding to be in this city at this time.
Well, on that high note, we'll wrap it up for today. I want to say thank you to our guests very, very much. It's Andy Allen from Corner Lot and Alex Safakis from JWB Real Estate Capital. Thank you very much. And everybody, as you're listening, new episodes drop every Thursday at 9 a.m. We thank you for joining us on This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition.